What's up, guys? This is Tabletop Vibes, and today we're taking a look at Havoc with Zach, the designer of the game. Zach, why don't you tell us a little bit about what Havoc is?
Havoc, my short little elevator pitch is: imagine if Magic and chess had a sci-fi love child.
Nice.
That's Havoc. Plus Mechs. The Mechs are important. Don't forget the Mechs.
No, yeah, awesome. Yeah, and so it's a deck builder, 1 versus 1, also 2 versus 2. Card battler.
That's right.
And so, as he stated, you get to play as Mechs, and you're a pilot in the mech, and you're fighting with all of your different, I guess there's factions, right?
Yeah, there's factions.
You want to talk about?
I mean, our universe is brand new, original. Our head writer, I like to brag about him all the time. He hates it when I do it. I don't care. He's not here. He can't stop me. He is an Oxford graduate, so the universe that he wrote is incredibly rich, and vast, and deep. There are 8 unique alien civilizations that he's created for this, hundreds of pages of writing. So the factions, you know, a lot of times you play a card game, the story ends with the cards you're seeing, right? Sure. But this is so much deeper than that.
So there's like a lot of lore to it.
There's so much lore. I can't wait till we get to share all that.
Yeah,
I'm more excited to share the lore with the world than I am the game as well. That's a lie. I'm very excited about the game. But
I'm excited for both because I really love lore. The art is super cool.
Appreciate it.
You guys definitely have a lot of cool artists on board, right?
We do. Yeah, actually, most of our team, our full-time staff, are artists. So our head artist, Mihai, he's phenomenal. He does most of the card art. 3 of our 5 full-time staff are artists. On top of that, we've actually worked with a couple different freelance artists who've done work for Magic the Gathering and Fantasy Flight Games, other big names like that. They've done card art for us too. So yeah, phenomenal art.
That's awesome. Yeah, and which we'll definitely be showing you up on the screen. And so I can run through it really quick how the game kind of overplays. So you're going to take a deck of 40 cards, and you're going to be playing on a
6x6 field of play.
6x6. You're going to your mech. You get your pilot, your deck of cards. The first player does not take the core card, which is a card you get for being second, which gives you an extra Nix, which is what you're going to Exa.
Exa. Oh, man. Is the mana in this game is called Exa.
Mana is called Exa. The Nix is actually in the middle of the board. It's the orange area.
Too many X's in this damn game.
There's a lot of X's. But at the same time, that's like that's where a lot of the battle happens.
That's where the magic happens.
And so you get to draw 5 cards at the start of the game, and then you can mulligan on the first round only because there's cost to playing cards. You don't get them for free, and your Exa grows every round.
That's right. Yeah, so we actually have a hybrid mana system, or Exa system, if you want to call it that, where it's kind of a cross between that of Hearthstone and that of Magic, but with a pretty big twist that maybe we'll talk about a little bit. But the reactors that are kind of like the analog to the mana or the lands from Magic. In this game, we each share those. It's a shared resource, so when one player plays it, it helps the other player as well. So there's always this sort of like give and take, this tension of, if I'm going to do this thing, is it actually going to help my opponent? I don't know. It's going to help me right now, but it might come back to bite me. That's what we wanted to build into like every aspect of the game to really stress you guys out as you play this game.
And then it does come through in the game. So one of the coolest portions, like Zach was talking about, is the reactors. They all have the same amount of reactors in your deck as each other.
That's right.
And it's kind of like the arms race, where you're trying to put out your reactors first, because if you can get 4 out of those 7 reactors,
6. Yes.
4 out of the 6 reactors, you then can get your mech out quicker, or you would have to wait till round 8.
Yes, yeah. There's a significant advantage to getting your mech out first. It's not an end-all be-all. You can still win when you get your mech out second.
I did not. I didn't get my mech out first, and I didn't win, and I got pretty destroyed, to be honest with you. I kind of sucked it up.
It didn't go great, but he hasn't played it much. So
I have only played a decent handful of times, and he did design the game, so there's that.
You know, I like to joke that I'm the best in the world in this game, but it's actually not even true. Even though I play this literally more than anyone in the world, I still get beat by some friends of mine. I
just need to be better.
So, yeah.
And then so in the game, we were talking about, you're playing out cards. You have item cards or tech cards. You have weapons that you can mech items that you can put on your mech. Some characters have the ability to use those abilities. So I had this little crappy robot, and he sucked so much, but I put a massive gun on him.
Yes.
Got to shoot at Zach here. I should have shot at a different character because, well, I got super tunnel focused on shooting the mech. And the cool part about the mech and the pilot can eject himself, from the mech, but he's only like usually like what 1,200 health.
Yeah.
And the mech usually is at like 22,
2,000, 2400. Yeah.
And so if he stays inside the mech, you got to kill the mech, and then he comes out. But you can also shoot him out of the mech, and then you can jump back in.
Yep.
But you can't. You need to get your mech out of home base.
Yes, that's right.
Because you're going to get destroyed like me.
Yeah, the spatial element of the game makes for a lot of interesting decisions as well. Because, like, as you say, like a scenario in which you might want to eject your pilot to attack your opponent is if you don't have enough reach with your mech. Now you pop your pilot out, he's one row ahead. The problem is your pilot can't just autonomously move back into the mech. So it's a high risk move.
Because he could get killed out on the field.
Yeah. So I mean, that's again, there's that tension we're talking about, right? Like you can do something to help you in this moment, but it might end up hurting you later.
Right.
Yeah.
And so all the cards you're playing too, so you have other cards like the combatants, and so they have range and they have movement.
That's right.
So sometimes they have no movement. That little droid I was talking to you about, useless, they have no movement. So you have to it's understanding where, which is what I was not good at, understanding where on the grid that your guy is at and how close you are to someone killing you in range, because range is, like if you have 3 ranges, 3 up on the grid, and it's the entire row. So that's the kind of like the cool part I think about.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a lot to keep track of, but once you play it a few times, it all starts to become just sort of intuitive, and you feel like you just grasp it like that. And I think you already got it.
I mean, I can talk about it really well.
Yeah.
I didn't execute well, but there's a bunch of cool pilots you can choose from. There's a bunch of cool mechs that you can choose from as well. And they have different, I think they kind of have different play styles a little bit, right?
That's right, yeah. So we've got 5 pilots and 4 mechs, and you can combine those however you want in any given game. The 4 mechs, they vary in terms of their different range or different attack power or different amount of equipment that can be grafted to them.
I love the grafting mechanic.
Yeah,
as well.
so graft, you mentioned the little droid earlier that can use the mech weapon. So generally speaking, the mech equipment can only be used by the mechs. Surprise, surprise. However, there are a handful of combatants in the game that have an ability called graft that allows them to use those weapons. So it's fun that you're not literally just stuck with one guy who can use it. If you get this thing in hand, but you've already got a couple weapons equipped and you can't put it on your mech, well, maybe you got a droid with some graft, and boom, there you go.
Right.
Another big bummer.
Yeah, and so there's there's a cost to play the card, an extra cost. Right this time.
Yeah.
And there's an extra cost, and so to play out your cards, there is what do you guys call it? When you put out a character, you do have to wait around.
Yes, we call it battle prep. Most games call it summoning sickness.
Sure.
We were very annoying with that because most games have haste, right? We call it initiative.
Sure.
Battle prep is our summoning sickness.
You have to understand where you are on the grid. You have to understand that you're going to have to wait for battle prep, and then you have to make sure you're managing your exa, and then you can play out as much cards as you have exa.
That's right.
And it's comboing. I think it's really big. Comboing and chaining cards to make yourself be able to do different things. There's cards that play off of looking in your deck for the core reactor, which is pretty much what you want to do quickly. While they're in the Nix. God damn. I'll figure it out. And so then the other cool thing is if all the reactors are already out and you draw a reactor in your hand, they're not useless. You can discard it to draw a card, which I think is
in fact
huge.
Some players will actually play with a completely different approach. Instead of engaging in that mech reactor race we talked about earlier, allows you to get your mech out earlier. Some players will just go for the card advantage. They'll use those reactor cards as cycle cards and get more cards in hand. Now, is it going to work? Not every time, but it's an option. It will work sometimes.
And so you have all these different things you have to pay for. Obviously, you have to pay for your extra cost for play the cards down. There's really big cards. There's 8s. I think there's 10.
There's actually bigger ones.
Is there?
You haven't even seen.
Oh, snap!
I think there's a 14 somewhere in there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, so you have all these different cards. They all have different cool things like shift. I had a guy that can move himself, because he didn't have any movement. It helped that stupid little droid we're talking about.
Yeah.
He's great. I love that guy. And then you have pulling mechanics, right? You have
that's the big thing.
Transference.
Yes. So the game it's dynamic on its own accord because it has the grid and it has the movement. But we didn't want to give everyone movement because that would just be it would be too fast,
crazy,
right? So instead, we've created other ways for cards to move around the grid, or for you to move your opponent's cards, push and pull, as you mentioned. Yeah. Different ways to accomplish the same thing, but it makes it adds that much more depth of strategy to it.
Right. And then it's when to do all those things, right? Mm-hmm. And then I was talking in the beginning, I just went for Zach's mech constantly. Well, so better strategy would be all right, that guy's pretty powerful. If I take him out now, I don't have to worry about him later. or just worry about them later and then you die. And so I mean, there's all this like tension back and forth. There's a ton of strategy. I'm pretty sure you guys were talking about. We talked about you guys have like a world that's like it's going to be. So there's going to be probably more cards and
That's right.
things like that.
Actually, with our Kickstarter, we've got the first expansion in the stretch goals. So if you guys can help us get that thing up there, then we can get the first expansion out in full. So the base set has about 200 cards.
Yeah.
The first expansion will be another 75. Already developed a couple other expansions beyond that, but you don't get to see those yet.
Not yet. But see, there's a lot to dive in. There's a lot of deep strategy, really cool cards, great art, and it plays pretty quick, especially if you don't know what you're doing and you suck. You get killed pretty fast, but you can then do it again, which is great. And so it's coming out the Kickstarter pretty soon.
Very soon, within the next few weeks.
Yeah.
I don't know when this is going live.
Yeah. But we'll put the link in the bio.
Yes.
Definitely check out their site. Like, subscribe, comment on what your favorite mech is. I mean, I remember watching like Gundam Warrior, whatever.
There you go.
I'm probably gonna get it wrong. Someone's gonna destroy me in the comics.
Gundam's a real thing?
Yeah.
These guys don't look too much like Gundams.
No, not at all.
We
Like Pacific
wanted
Rim
yeah,
style.
I mean, we
That's what I
tried
was
to make
thinking.
them like organic. Like they're like semi-organic.
Yeah.
So they got like this. They almost look like tree bark. So it's a. We tried. We were like, how do we make the mechs unique? Because everyone's done mechs, right? There's like a million mechs. So these are semi-organic mechs.
There you go. They're about all natural.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
But yeah, thank you so much for watching. We'll check you next time. I'm TableTopVibes here with Zach from Havoc. We'll see you later.